Having an architectural model linking to our model is useful for laying out our structure, that's for sure. But another thing we can get from the architectural model is the data that describes the actual project name, address, and other items like that. What I'd like to do in this video is open the architectural model, change some project information, then link it into a structural model. Then we'll bring in the project information. So let's jump into Revit. Under Projects, I'm going to go to Open. I'm going to browse where I'm keeping my exercise files in Chapter 1. Then I'm going to grab my architectural project info file. Or, of course, you can grab any architectural model you want to get the project information out of. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click Open. Now that we're in this model, what I'd like to do is I want to go to Manage. Then I'd like to go to Project Information. I'm going to widen the Project Information panel. And for the project name, I'm going to call it Revit Structured Learning, all caps. For the project number, I'll just type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For the client name, I'm going to put my own name in there, Eric Wing. For the project address, I can either type it in here or I can click the builder button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Boulder, Ave, Boulder, Colorado. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click OK again. I'm simply going to save it. Now I'm going to close out of the architectural model. And I'm going to start a new structural project using the structural template right here. Now let's go ahead and bring in that architectural model. So I'm going to go to Insert. Then I'm going to go to Link Revit. I hate those backups. Right-click it and delete it. Select architectural _ project info. For the positioning, we'll go origin to origin, but it doesn't really matter for here. We're going to click Open. Now what I'd like to do is make a new sheet. So in the project browser, I'm going to scroll down over here. I'm going to right-click on Sheets All. I'm going to select New Sheet. We use the standard 30 by 42 Revit border. We'll hit OK. Notice it's blanked out, but because we have a model linked into here, we can grab the project information from it. So what I'd like to do is go to the Manage tab. Now I click on Transfer Project Standards. Now be careful here, because notice everything is checked on. So I'm going to click on Check None. I'm going to scroll down until I find Project Information. I'm going to click it. It's nice here because we can bring in print settings and a bunch of other things that pertain to the project setup. But for now, I just want to select Project Info. I'm going to click OK. Just because we use the grid to basically lock in our columns, that doesn't mean we can't move a few columns around here and there. The objective of this video is to select a couple columns and move them. Then we're going to go back and examine the properties of the column to see how Revit displays the offsets in the properties. I'm going to go to Level 1 Structural Plan. Now these columns are kind of in the middle of the hallway, so I want to move them. So to move these columns, I'm just going to simply pick a window around these two columns right here. I'm going to click on my Move button. I'm going to pick the center line of the column. I'm going to move it over 4 feet. Notice that you can just move in the one direction and type in the increment you want to move them, and they'll go 4 feet. I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to pick a window around these two. I'm going to click the Move button. I'm going to pick a point right here, and I'm going to go 4 feet. Also notice we have Move with Grids turned on. It still understands that it's on this grid line and on this grid line. So if we were to remove the entire grid line over 4 feet, it would move all of the columns on it, moving this over that way and that over that way. We could move this one, but I'm going to make the architect move the door. Now I want to zoom into one of these columns and select it. Now the column location, notice that it knows that it's on column line C3. But now we know we have a negative 4-foot offset. Pretty cool. I'm going to come over to this column and select it. Notice that we now have a positive column location mark. So that's pretty easy. But by simply moving a column, Revit keeps track of that intersection, as well as the offset distance from the column line. Remember though, you must first place the column on the grid intersection, then move it for Revit to register it as a column offset. Okay, it's time to start thinking about foundation walls. What I'd like to do is to get started, we're going to jump into Revit, and let's go to Structure 10. I want to make sure I'm in Level 1 Structural Plans. But what I want to do right now is temporarily hide the grids. So let's type VG for Visibility Graphics. I'm going to go to Annotation Categories. I'm going to scroll down to where it says Grids. I'm going to uncheck that. Click Apply. Click OK. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to my Structure tab. I'm going to click on my Wall button. I'm going to click my drop down and I'm going to scroll down until it says Foundation 12-inch Concrete. And I'm going to grab that. Now I want to click on Edit Type. What I can do now is I can actually click the Duplicate button. So go ahead and click Duplicate. Now I like to go feet and inches. So I'm going to go Foundation 1 foot dash 6-inch concrete. And I'm just going to get rid of the number 2 that Revit automatically adds. Now I'm going to click OK. Now to make it 1 foot 6 under Structure, I'm going to click on Edit. And my thickness is going to be 1 space 6 and hit Enter. We can click the Preview button and that'll show just a big thick chunk of wall. Let's click OK. Now let's click OK again. Let's pay attention to the properties. So the base constraint, we don't want that. Click the drop down. Instead of level 1, I want to go top of footing. Now the base offset, I'm going to type in 0 and hit Enter. Let's click Apply. What we're going to do now is we're going to trace the perimeter of the wall. So to do that, we're going to click on the Pick Lines button. Let's look at some of our options. Depth, top of footing, like we said here. Location of the line, we do want it to be wall centerline. No offset, and we want our walls to join at the corners. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to grab the center line of this wall, and I'm going to pick it. I'm going to grab the center line of this wall. Remember, we can scroll in really close if we want. And we're going to pick it. I'm going to select here, and I'm going to pick it. Click here. I'm going to pick here. I'm going to pick this horizontal wall, this vertical wall, and the last wall I'm going to pick is this wall right here. I'm going to hit Escape a few times. Now I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to go to a 3D view. Notice that our walls are now appended to level 1 and then top of footing. Speaking of top of footing, let's go to top of footing in the project browser. So you see project browser, let's go down to top of footing. I'll zoom in. Notice that our walls are nice and thick on the outside and it automatically hatches them for us. So there you go. That's how you put in a foundation wall. Our walls need something to bear on. This is where bearing footings come in handy. Revit actually likes to call them wall footings, which by looking at the button, it makes you kind of think you're actually adding a wall, but that's not the case. You're adding a strip footing that is hosted to a foundation wall. Let's go to our Structure tab. Now, under the Foundation panel, we have 3 choices. Let's go with Wall. Now what I'd like to do is click on Edit Type. And here I want to click on Duplicate. And this bearing footing is going to be 2 foot 6 by 12 inches. And let's get rid of that 2 that Revit automatically added. Let's click OK. The width, let's type 2 space 6 and hit Enter. That's really all we need to do here. Let's click OK. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hover over this wall, but I'm not going to actually pick it. So if we just hover over this wall, if we hit our Tab key, now notice that the entire wall gets selected. Go ahead and pick the wall. Now if we pan around, notice that it puts it in. Let's go to a 3D view. Now this footing needs a wall to exist. A couple things to think about here. So if the architect actually had this wall in their model, we would not be able to host our footing to it. The structural engineer should own any structural wall that's in the model. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these footings. And we can look at some of the properties. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit just so we can see it better. Notice that we already have defaults for how we're going to add our reinforcing to it. If we scroll down our dimensions, we can't change these because of the fact that it's appended to the wall. Notice the volume. We even know the volume of the wall. If we click on Edit Type, notice now that we can come back in and change the walls. But I'd like to point something out. So if I hit Cancel here, and if I change an item in this property set, it's only going to reflect the one footing that I have selected. If I click on Edit Type, if I change anything here, it's going to affect every single bearing footing 2'6" by 12" that we have in the entire model. Keep that in mind when you're modeling items. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to hit Escape. Just make sure one last time that you go around and make sure that all your footings are in and that they look correct. There, that's how you add strip footings. Sometimes we're going to have a massive foundation, such as the type that supports an elevator shaft. In this video, we're going to be adding a foundation slab to the bottom of our elevator shaft. Then we're going to cut a hole in it for our sump. And I'm going to go down to my top of footing level. Now I'm going to zoom in here. We're going to actually model a giant thickened slab. It's not going to be the same as adding a predefined size right here. We're going to actually sketch it out. So we have 6" of bearing. So I'm going to go to the Structure tab. This time I want to click on Slab. For my foundation slab, I'm going to click on Edit Type. I'm going to hit the drop down here, and I'm going to select 10" foundation slab. I'm going to click OK. Now on my draw panel, notice that we now have pick walls, which is pretty cool, because if we pick walls and offset it, and if these walls move, well, guess what? Our slab is going to move with it. My offset, let's go with 6". Now I'm going to hover over one of these walls. I'm going to hit my Tab key, then I'm going to select them. I'm going to hit Escape a couple times. Now what I want to do is I want to put a 2-foot hole here. So I'm going to click on my Pick Lines button now. I'm going to give it an offset of 6". I'm going to go from the inside face of this wall in, and I'm going to go down. Now I'm going to click on my Pick Lines again. I'm going to give it an offset of 2 feet. So I just type in 2 in my offset dialog. I'm going to come down 2 feet. I'm going to come over 2 feet. I'm going to hit Escape. Now I'm using my trim command. I'm going to type TR for trim. I'm going to pick here to here, then from here to here, and then from here to here. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on Finish Edit Mode. I'm going to hit Escape a couple times. Now these arrows here indicate which way our span direction is going. We can either align it, we can delete it, or if you hit Escape a couple times, go ahead and select your slab again. What we can do if we want to go back in and edit this, we can click on Edit Sketch. And if we want our span direction to go in a different way, we can click on Span Direction here. And I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to click on this line, and our span direction will go that way. I'm going to click on Finish Edit Mode again, and our span direction is going the other way. Now what I'd like to do is go to a 3D view. Let's zoom in here to make sure everything's good. And we've got it. Now if we hold on the Shift key and the wheel button, we can scroll underneath here. And notice now we have our hole in here for our sump pit. I'm going to scroll back around. If we come all the way down, we can look straight down on it. We can see our pit. Pretty simple, but this is how you're going to add a giant foundation without using a predefined footing. Now, this part around it's pretty cool. Suppose we want identical framing going all the way up. Well, we can do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to physically copy these items to the clipboard, and we're going to use a good old-fashioned paste command and paste them to the levels above. The first thing I want to do is under Structural Plans, I want to go down to Level 2. Now, in Level 2, what I want to do is I want to pick a window around everything. Once we do that, I want to come up here and click on the filter button. On the filter button, click check none. Now what I want to do is I want to select the structural framing girder, structural framing joist, and I want to click on structural beam systems. So these three are the only three items I want to have selected. Click apply, and then click OK. Now what we need to do, once these are selected, we need to come to our clipboard panel, and the most important thing is we need to click on copy to clipboard. Click copy to clipboard, and for verification that it worked, your paste icon should become active, which means it's not shaded like this icon, but it's lit up. If it's not lit up, you did not successfully copy your items to the clipboard. Once this is lit up, let's go to a 3D view. Let's get these pasted up to the next level. So let's go to the Modify tab. Let's go over to our Paste dropdown. Let's select Align to Selected Levels. What I want to do is select level 3. Now hold down your Control key, select level 4, 5, and let's go up to the roof level. Now let's click OK. Let's hit Escape a couple times. If you got an error saying there are duplicate types, you need to undo it because you accidentally probably pasted back to level 2. Revit's smart enough to tell you that it's overlapping, but it's not going to delete those beams. My main concern when doing this is anytime we have to alter a system, I'm always concerned that that didn't get copied. So anytime you do a mass copy like this, just make sure everything seems to be working out okay. Since our 3D view's detail level is set for fine, we can also see if this 6-inch offset works. So I have to come in here and just make sure my flange isn't shoved into my masonry wall. If it's not, it looks pretty good, so I think we're good to go. So that's how you quickly copy and paste a bunch of framing. What I'd like to do in this video is figure out how we can offset our beams down. As you can see, our beams are all at the level we want them at, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they're sloped, sometimes they have to be down for a certain reason. The reason they need to be down here is the fact that we're going to wind up with joists here. So all of these bearing beams need to be down 2.5 inches to accommodate for the joist seat. That's what I want to do in this video. In the project browser, I'm going to go down to my roof level. I'm going to hover over one of my beam systems and select it. Once it's selected, I'm just going to right click. I'm going to select all instances visible in view. And it will select all of my joist systems. I'm just going to hit delete. Now they're gone. We'll keep these framed in as beams, which is actually perfect. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all of my horizontal framing members. So I'm going to hold down the Control key. I'm going to start selecting these horizontal members. Now, what we need to do is, I'm going to scroll up in my properties so I see start level offset and end level offset. Both of these need to be negative 2.5 inches. So clicking the start level offset, type in minus 2.5 inches. My end level offset, type in minus 2.5 inches. And click apply. This is okay if elements get detached from their associated plane. Let's click OK. I'm going to go to a 3D view. I'm going to zoom in just to make sure we're down 2.5 inches. Everything looks pretty good. Another way to check it, if you go back to your roof level, and if you go to annotate, remember our spot elevation, you can go ahead and click that. And if we hover over the end of it, we'll see it's 48'7" 3/4. That doesn't help much. So what we want to do, if we go spot elevation, click the drop down and we go target relative. Now that we select target relative, go back to actual selected elevation. Now if we hover over the endpoint, we'll see we're minus 2.5 inches. You don't need to tag it. I just like to hover over to verify that it's correct. Hit escape a couple times. What I'd like to do is tag all these up as well. So let's stay on the Annotate tab. Let's click the Tag All button. Let's find Structural Framing Tags. Let's click Apply. Let's click OK. and we're tagged in. Obviously, some of these tags will need some help, so I can just move that over a little bit. There we go. Now we're ready to put some joists in here. Let's start getting into slabs. What I'd like to do in this video is create basically a slab on grade. We'll do it in our level 1 structural plan. So under structural plans in the project browser, let's go to level 1. Now what I'd like to do is go to the structure tab. Let's click on the floor button. Let's click the drop down. Let's find 6-inch concrete. Under floors, let's click on edit type. On the bottom down here, let's click on the preview button so we can see what we're doing. Now for the structure, let's click on edit and see how this is comprised. 6-inch concrete and the thickness of our floor is 6 inches. Let's click into where it says material, concrete, cast in place, gray. Let's click on the builder button. This little builder button will bring up the material browser. Now notice that concrete cast in place gray has a cut pattern of concrete, but no surface pattern. I like to keep the surface patterns turned off. But what's cool about render, it's the material that actually drives the aesthetics. So when we cut a section through this concrete slab, we're going to see the concrete hatch. That's how that works. It just so happens that this is the perfect material for me, so I'm going to click OK. This is the perfect size for me, so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click Apply. And I'm going to click OK. Now what I want to do is I want to find the outside edges of the entire perimeter. So if I hover my mouse over the outside face and hit Tab, it should select the entire perimeter. If you're not getting the wall, make sure on the Draw panel, you have your Pick Wall set by default. So I'm going to hover over my wall right here. I'm going to hit Tab, then I'm going to select. Once we have them all selected, let's go ahead and click on Finish Edit Mode. Now remember it's asking us if we'd like the walls that go up to the floor's level to attach to its bottom. We do, so let's just click on Yes. Let's hit Escape a couple times. Now, it looks kind of funny. It doesn't quite look like a structural plan. So under Structural Plan and the Properties, let's scroll down till we find Discipline. Let's click the Coordination drop-down. Let's select Structural. Let's click Apply. Now, this looks more like a structural plan to me. So this is how you put a slab in. The next video has us putting in a slab with a metal deck. One last thing I'd like to do with slabs is create a slab depression. Now, a lot of times I see people go to a floor plan and just start drawing in detail lines. I don't like doing that. I'll show you how easy it is. Under structural plans, I'm going to go down to level 1. I'm going to zoom in on this area. I'm going to put a slab depression going all the way up here and all the way over to here. On my structure tab, I'm going to model another in-place component, just like what we did on our footing steps. So click Component drop-down, Model in Place. I'm going to scroll down till I find Structural Foundations, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to call this First Floor Depression. Hit OK. Now what we're going to do is on the Create tab, I want to create a void form, void extrusion. Now it's essential that the next step is on the work plane. Go ahead and click on Set. I want to click on Pick a Plane. Now I want to click OK. I'm going to hover over this floor and just pick it. Now my extrusion end, let's just type in 3 inches and hit Enter. Now on my draw panel, I'm going to draw lines. I'm going to come up from here and go into my corridor, hit Escape. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. I'm going to draw another one from here up to about here. Hit Escape. I'll draw a line from here to about here. I got lucky on the corners. If you didn't and you have a gap, all you need to do is type TR for trim and trim it out. Now let's make sure we click on these lines here. So I'm just going to click on my line button. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Hit Escape once. and draw a line from here to here. Escape a couple times. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on Finish, Edit Mode, but we're not quite done yet. So let's go to a 3D view. Now I'm going to zoom in on my depression. Now what we need to do is we need to cut this geometry out of this geometry. So on the Modify tab, click the Cut button. Select your floor. Now select your void. Hit Escape a few times. Let's cut it out. We have our thickened slab edge here, so we're going to go ahead and click Cut. Select your thickened slab edge. Now select your void extrusion, and it's going to cut itself out of that. Let's click on Finish Model. And there we have it. If we pan around to this side, it's cut out of there as well. So that's how you create a slab depression. Okay, so I'm going to start adding some rebar. A couple things I'd like to do first, though. Let's go to our level 1 structural plan. I'm going to zoom in on this section, and I'm going to open it up. Before I go any further, though, I want to rename this section. So I'm going to scroll down on my project browser, and I want to drill into sections. Section 1's not a great name, so I'm going to right-click on Section 1, and I want to rename it. All caps, we'll just call it Typical Edge Detail, and we'll click OK. Now what I'd like to do is go to my View tab. Now I'm going to click the Callout button right here. Now I'm going to pick a window right around this foundation, just like this. And I'm going to hit Escape a few times. Now what I'm going to do is double-click on this callout bubble. And I'm going to go over to my project browser. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to rename. And I'm going to call it Typical Foundation Edge Detail. I'm going to click OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my scale. I'm going to hit my scale flyout. I'm going to increase it to 1/2 inch equals a foot. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. So my top of footing, I'm going to select this. I'm going to turn it on over here, and I'm going to turn it off over here. I'm going to select my lines and just pull them back a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some reinforcing. So I'm going to select this wall. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to click on my rebar button. This is all fine, so click OK. Now the first placement I'm going to select is going to be parallel to work plane. Your icons might look a little bit different because my resolution is a little bit different. So I'm going to click parallel to work plane. I'm going to come over to my wall. Notice that I can hover over until I get to those dotted lines. This is our rebar cover. So if I hit Escape a couple times, and I select my wall, and if I scroll down, we'll see that I have rebar covers already set. So again, I'm going to select my wall. I'm going to click on rebar. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to pick a spot right here. I'm going to pick a spot right here. I'm going to hit Escape a couple times. I'm going to select my rebar by hitting my Control key. I'm going to grab both of these. And under my layout rule, instead of single, I'm going to click my drop down. And I'm going to select maximum spacing. And my spacing is going to be 12 inches. And now I have my vertical rebar in my wall. Working with reinforcing, I'd like to put some horizontal bars. In AutoCAD, we used to have to create a donut to do this. Now we actually use rebar. In my project browser, I'm going to scroll down till I find Typical Foundation Edge Detail, and I'm going to double-click that. Now I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to go ahead and select my wall, and I'm going to click on the rebar button again. I'm going to keep with my rebar shape double-Alt, but for my placement, this time I'm going to go parallel to cover. Notice now, when I put in my rebar, I'll see that I can put it in horizontally. Also notice that we can specify our rebar number. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it in right about here. Then I'm going to hit escape a couple times. I'm going to select my rebar. Now for my layout, instead of single, I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to go maximum spacing. Now I'm going to look over here and I'm going to scroll down. So my maximum spacing, my spacing wants to be 12 inches. I'm going to click apply. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. And notice that when we come down here, it's going to actually stop itself at the cover. Up here, it stops itself at the cover. If I want it a little closer to this bar, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just select the rebar itself, and I'll hit my little arrow to the right. That's called the nudge command. I can nudge that over. Now what I like to do is I'm going to select my horizontal rebar. I'm going to type MM, and I'm going to mirror it about the center line. What's nice is now I know that this bar is kind of off. So I'm going to hover over this bar, hit my tab key, select it, and just delete it. Select this bar, type MN, and mirror this. We don't want to get sloppy now. Next thing I want to do is I want to put a little keyway down here. So to do that, what we need to do is go to the View tab. Under Graphics, I want to click on the Cut Profile button. For Edit, I want to edit boundary between faces. I'm going to click on this boundary right here. Now I want to kind of sketch this, but I'm just going to sketch a keyway. So I'm going to pick a point right about here. I'm going to come into 45 degrees. I'm going to pick this point. I'm going to go to the midpoint. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to select this magenta line. I'm going to type MN. I'm going to click on the center line. I'm going to mirror it. I'm going to type TR for trim. I'm going to click this horizontal line. I'm going to click this line. Now I'm going to click on Finish Edit Mode. Here we go. This is starting to look like an actual detail. Okay, suppose we just want to add freeform rebar. We can do that. What we do is we actually add rebar by sketch. Now I'm going to scroll down till I find Sections Typical Foundation Edge Detail. I'm going to zoom into my favorite little wall here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to click on Rebar. This time what I want to do is I want to click on my placement and I'm just going to go Sketch Rebar. Now for some reason I need to select the wall again, so I'm just going to come back in here and I'm going to select my wall again. Notice I've got some cover settings, but it doesn't matter. I can go right over the top of all of it. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line from here down to here, over to here, and hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to select this and I'm going to nudge it over so it's right about there. I'm going to click on Finish Edit Mode. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now what's nice is I can select this rebar. I can type MM for mirror. I can pick the center line and mirror it. Now with it still selected, I can just grab this little grip and I can move it up. Hit escape a couple times. They're dialed in. Now I'm going to sketch some rebar up into here. I'm going to select my foundation wall. I'm going to click rebar. I'm going to click on sketch rebar. I'm going to select my wall again. Now I'm just going to grab some rebar. I'm going to draw it in from here. And I'm going to dowel this in. I'll select this magenta line. Nudge it over a little bit. Now I'm going to click on Finish Edit Mode. And we're all set. So we can pretty much dowel in any kind of rebar that we want at any time we want. Autodesk has added a new type of reinforcing, which can follow the path of surfaces that you pick. What I'd like to do in this video is figure out how to do this. Revit will want you to pick the host of the reinforcing, then the start, and then the end of the direction in which the rebar will be spaced. Then we need to play around with the embedment. Jumping to Revit, let's start a project using the structural template. On the Structure tab, Let's click slab. Now on the draw panel, I'm just going to click start end radius arc. I don't care how long it is or what the arc is. Just skip a few times. Let's click pick lines. Let's offset it 4 feet. Hit escape a few times. Click the line button. Let's just close it up. It's not going to really matter what the span direction is. So when we click finish, I'm just going to get rid of that symbol. I pretty much have to be in a 3D view to do this. Zoom in on your U-shaped slab and select it. Click on the rebar button. We know, click OK. Now it's funny because following your cursor, it says one thing, then up here it says another. But you can keep clicking this. This is what confused me. Pay attention to the one that's following your cursor, not the one that's up here. So I'm going to click again. I'm going to click again. Now I want to select my host surface. If you want your reinforcement to be on the top, select the top. If you want it to be on the bottom, select the bottom. I'm going to go to the bottom. So I'm going to select my bottom as my host surface. Now it still says select host surface, but this has changed. So click on start surface. Now we want to say start surface. I want to start on this inside face. Click on end this surface. I'm going to pan back to here and I want to select this face. For the layout, let's go maximum spacing. And for the spacing, let's go a foot. Now click finish. Now hit escape a couple times. Set your detail level to fine. Select your rebar. Let's come down to view visibility states, click edit. Let's view it as solid in this view. Click OK. Set our detail level to realistic. We hit escape a couple times. It's going to be in there. Now, if we want to raise it up a little bit, that's going to be a function of the actual. It's kind of in the middle. We scroll down here a little bit. Rebar cover bottom. It's going up 3 inches. We can just change that to another one, maybe 1.5 inches. Hit apply. It's going to move it down. So that's how you do it. It's a pretty cool feature, but it takes some getting used to. What I'd like to do now is create some lateral brace frames. Up to this point, we've done pretty much everything in 2D, especially in a 2D plan. What I want to do is put in a 3D element. However, we're going to remain in 2D. The trick here is we need to create an elevation, and we need to set the reference plane onto a grid line. To do that, I'm going to go down to level 2 in the project browser. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my View tab. And on the Create panel, I have an elevation button. I'm going to come to the side of it here, and I'm going to hit the drop down, and I'm going to create a framing elevation. Go ahead and click on Framing Elevation. Now notice I can't put anything in until I find a grid line. So on this grid line, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to pick a point about in the middle, outside looking in. Once I pick that, I have elevation 1A squarely placed in my plan. Perfect. I'm going to open this elevation up by double-clicking on elevation 1A. In elevation 1A, I'm going to set my detail level to fine. Now in my project browser, I'm going to scroll down till I find elevations, framing elevations. I'm going to drill into here. I'm going to right-click on elevation 1A, and I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to call it Brace Bay A, all caps, BRACE Bay -A. Now I'm going to click OK. Now, notice that we have what's called the crop region around it. I like where it is on the sides, but the top here, I want to select it. I want to click on this little grip, and I want to drag it down. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now, what I want to look at, if we go to the Structure tab, And on our work plane panel, I want to click my Set Work Plane. So in elevation, we need to set our work plane. But look, it's already set to grid line F. So that means anything we draw here or model here is going to be centered on grid line F. It's pretty cool. I'm going to hit cancel here. I'm going to hit Control Tab and go back to my floor plan. I'm going to put a brace frame here as well. So I'm going to go to my View tab. I'm going to go to my Elevation dropdown. I'm going to go to Framing Elevation. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick right here. I'm going to hit Escape a couple times. I'm going to double click on this little bubble. I'm going to set my detail level to 5. I'm going to grab my crop region and I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to right click on Elevation 1A in my project browser and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Brace Bay B, all caps. Now I'm going to click OK. Hit Escape a couple times. Now that's how you create a framing elevation. What I'd like to do now is look at the symbology of our brace frames. While we're looking at the symbology, I'd like to take a look at the other structural settings. So let's click on the Structure tab. What I want to do is, on the Structure panel, there's a Properties button right here. Go ahead and click this. This brings us into our structural settings. Symbolic cutback distance. Now remember when we did our braces and our beams, they cut back automatically. That's 3/32 of an inch, and that's the AIA standard. Now for our brace symbol in the plan, what do we want to show? Is it a parallel line? Do we show it above or below? Well, it's hard to tell because we don't know what we're talking about here. So let's click OK. Let's go to level 2 structural plan. Let's zoom in right here. Notice that we have this hidden line that's here and that's here. This is that brace frame. So this is indicating that there's a brace frame below us or above us. I'm not sure. Well, let's take a look at the settings again. So let's go back to structure. Let's go to the settings right here. Now we're going to show it above and below. But instead of parallel lines, let's click line with angle. Notice that it changes it here in the symbol. Let's click OK. Wait for it to regenerate for a second. Now what's going to happen is it's going to show that symbol, which is kind of neat. So let's go to level 3, and it's showing it here again. So now this is showing both symbols. If we go to level 2, because we're below it, or at the same level, it only shows the ends, which is pretty much what we wanted to see. Okay, let's dig into our stairs a little bit deeper. Suppose this giant square chunk isn't really what we want. I'd like to have a C channel in here, maybe a 10-inch C channel. Let's do that. I'm going to insert. No, I'm going to go to load family. We're actually going to load a profile. So I'm going to scroll down to profiles, double click on that. Now let's go to framing. Let's go to steel. Let's go to C channel profile and let's click open. I want to grab a C10 by 20. Now I'm going to click OK. Now I want to select my staircase. We don't need to edit stairs. We can just go into edit type. So let's click on edit type. Now we have all kinds of stuff we can do. The landing type, we'll keep it as non-monolithic, but if you click into here, you can click the builder button. You can change some stuff. Let's hit cancel. Now for the right support, it's going to be a stringer, just like this, so a stringer closed. But the right support type, now this is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to click in the stringer, 2-inch width. I'm going to click on my builder button right here. For my material, let's click into where it says by category. You click on the little builder button here. I'm going to grab steel ASTM A36. I'm just going to click OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to call it 10-inch C channel. I'm going to click OK. My section profile, instead of default, I'm going to click the drop down now. And look who's here, C channel profile C10 by 20. You have a 50-50% chance, but I'm pretty sure we need to flip the section profile. If it's not working out, you can change the depth on run and depth on landing, but I think we're going to be good because this is a pretty typical situation. I'm going to click OK. Now for my left support type, I'm going to click into here. I'm going to click my builder button. On my type, I'm going to click on 10-inch C channel. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to add a middle support. This will be a carriage 2-inch width. I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to click OK. Escape a couple times. Now I'm going to zoom in on my stairs. I can see now that I've got a C channel that's going all the way around, and it's joining itself pretty nicely. So that's how we modify a set of stairs. All right, let's go ahead and make some ramps. To do that, I'm going to go to level 1 structural plan. I'm going to scroll into this area here. I want my ramp to come down and over. I want to go to the architecture tab, and I want to click the ramp button. Now, the trick is I want to keep my base level and my top level both to level 1, but I'm going to get an error if I do that. So my base offset, I have to set. I want my base offset to be -2 space 6, -2 foot 6. So my base level and my top level both want to be level 1. I'm going to click apply. Now, I'm simply going to pick a point right about here. I'm going to move my cursor down. And it's not giving me much of a guidance. I'm going to come down about 15 feet. I'm going to pick this point here. Now I'm going to move my cursor down this way. A little bit more. I'm going to pick a point right about here. I'm going to come this way. This way I have 15 feet of incline ramp created, 15 feet remaining. Now I'm going to pick a point right here. Now I'm going to hit escape a couple times. I'm going to click on my railing button. I'm going to select none. I'm going to click OK. Again, I'm going to let the architect deal with the railing. Now I'm simply going to click on Finish Edit Mode. I'm going to go to a 3D view. I'm going to look for my ramp, and I can't find it. We know how to turn them on, though, don't we? If we type VG for Visibility Graphics, and you scroll down to ramps, we can turn them on. Click Apply. Click OK. Seems like we have another problem, as our ramp is going in the wrong direction. That's okay, we can fix that too. Let's go back down to level 1. Select your ramp. Now, you see this little button right here? It's a little arrow. Go ahead and flip it. Now go back to a 3D view. Now our ramp is going in the right direction. It's kind of weird looking. So what I want to do is select our ramp. I want to make this be a full thickness. If we select our ramp and click Edit Type, I don't like the name Ramp 1. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call it Exterior Ramp. I'm going to click OK. For my shape, instead of thick, I'm going to set it for solid. This is also where we get our maximum incline length is 30 feet. Our slope is 1/12. You can change that, but I don't recommend it. My function, instead of interior, let's call it exterior because we called it exterior ramp here. Let's click OK. Let's hit escape a couple times. And that's a nice thick ramp. I'm going to go to my level 1 structural plan. Notice that our ramp is in place and it's all set. We have our down arrow here and it's terminating out into the yard. That's how you make a ramp. Okay, here's what I want to do. It's kind of a cross between a floor and a ramp. It's a sloped floor. I'm running out of places to put floors and slabs, but I see a need up here for some kind of closure. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a floor here, then we're going to slope it down towards a weird angle, then we're going to attach our walls to it. I'm going to go to my penthouse structural plan. The first thing I want to do is set my shaft opening down a little bit. because I'm afraid it's going to cut through my roof. So I'm going to select my shaft opening. And my top offset, I'm going to type in -7 feet and hit enter. Takes a second. We can't see the symbolic line, so we know that it's down below our cut plane. Hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to go to the structure tab and I'm going to click on floor. I'm going to use my 3-inch lightweight concrete on 2-inch compact. That's fine. Now on my draw panel, I'm going to click on my pick walls button. And for an offset, let's go 1 foot. Now pull down your wheel button and kind of pan around to get the focus out of this little dialog here. Now I'm going to hover over this wall. I'm going to hit my tab key. Now I'm going to pick it. It puts it in around the box. Now I'm going to click on slope arrow. I'm going to pick this corner here. I'm going to come down and I'm going to pick this corner here. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to go ahead and select my slope arrow. And I'm going to specify, instead of height of tail, I'm going to specify slope. My height offset of tail, I'm going to type in 0. And my slope, I'm going to go 30 degrees. And I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to click on finish edit mode. Now Revit wants to know, would I like the walls that go up to this floor's level to attach to its bottom? I sure do, so I'm going to click yes. It looks really weird because our view range is not set correctly. So what I'm going to do is, in my properties, I'm going to scroll down to where it says view range. And I'm going to click edit. My top, I'm just going to set unlimited. And my cut plane, I'm going to offset that 50 feet just to make sure I'm good. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to go to a 3D view. I'm going to look. I've got a really steep, weird-looking sloping roof / floor. So that's how you create a sloping floor. Now I want to create a slab that's going to morph itself to the framing. It's not that hard to do, believe me. First thing I want to do, though, is I want to turn off all my analytical planes. Type VG. Let's go to Analytical Model Categories. Let's click All. Let's uncheck all of these items. Let's click Apply. And let's click OK. Under Structural Plans, let's go down to Level 2. Let's go to the Structure tab. Let's click on Floor. Now for the floor, let's just go with a 6-inch concrete deck. On my draw panel, let's click on Pick Supports. So I'm going to pick this support. I'm going to pick this support. I'm going to go with this support and with this one. I'm going to type PR for trim. And I'm going to trim them out. So it's just like that. Click on Finish Edit Mode. Now let's go to a 3D view. Doesn't look like it did anything. Well, it didn't. So what we need to do now is go ahead and select your floor. Remember, if you have that little red X here, go ahead and click that button and turn it off. Now, if you hover over your floor, you can select it. Now, I'm going to click on Pick Supports right here. Notice that when we select it, we get a whole bunch of choices. So I'm going to click on Pick Supports. Now, there's a lot of supports to pick, so just start going and start picking these framing members. You're going to have to pretty much pick every one of them in the model. All right, now what we need to do is pick these in the middle. So I'm just going to keep going down through, because I want to make sure that if I change any of these pitches or any of these members, then our floor is going to go with it. One last row right here, and we got it. So if we pan back around, we'll see that our floor is segmented. Don't be that person that puts in a series of different floors and then puts slope arrows in there. I've seen that happen before. You do not have to do that. So once you have this all set and it's attached to the framing, you are good to go. Sometimes it's hard to code. Well, that was before the 2019 version came out. In this video, I'd like to cope a beam for real. In Revit, let's start a new project using the structural template. Let's go to the Structure tab, click the Beam button. I don't really care what size. Let's draw a beam here. I'm going to draw a beam going this way. Hit escape a few times. Let's cut a section through the beam. On the Quick Access toolbar, click the Section button. Let's draw a section right through here. Hit escape a few times. Let's open up the section. Let's set the scale to 3/4 of an inch equals a foot. Let's set the detail level to fine. Go to the Steel tab. Click the Cope button. Hold down your Control key. Select this beam here. Select this beam here. You can either hit your space bar or Enter. And check out what happens. It copes it. Hit escape a few times. Now what we'll see though, if we hover over the cope, it'll kind of light it up. You have to grope around a little bit to find it. You have to kind of move your mouse around a little bit. If you come out here, you can see that there's a bounding box. Select it. Now click Modify Parameters. You look at all of this. The one thing I'd love being able to change is number 4. For the radius, I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch. Notice that it's doing it for you. We can change the distance from the web, the inner flange, and they call it all out for you. It's pretty awesome. Number 3, I'm going to go 1 inch. All you got to do is click off of it and it puts it in. Let's close out of this dialog. Hit escape a few times. Go to a 3D view. Zoom in on it. Notice it's coped. Now in 3D, we can also select the cope. If we change the direction, notice it says number 2 here. What's going to happen is it's going to cut that beam right off. We don't want that, so we're going to click this again, and it's going to go back through. Finally, I've had to do a few things that I'm not proud of to get a cope to look real. Okay, sometimes we just need to bring in AutoCAD. If all else fails, we can go back to what worked for the last 20 years. What we need to do is we need to make what's called a drafting view. So I want to go to my View tab, and I want to click on the Drafting View button. For the name, all caps, call it Connection. For the scale, luckily, it's going to be 1.5 inches. Scale value is 1:8. Remember we used to have to do that in AutoCAD? Click OK. Now this is a blank view. We can draw lines here, we can insert components here, we can do whatever we want. But what I want to do is go to the Insert tab. And I want to click on Import CAD. Never link a detail, always import the CAD. Click Import CAD. Scroll to where you're keeping your exercise files. Now for the colors. Instead of preserve, I want to go black and white. For layers or levels, I like to just do visible. Import units, we're going to have to auto detect this. For positioning, auto center to center pretty much works best. Click Open. Type ZA so we can see everything. And here it is. Now we can do a few things with this. If we select this detail, we can click the Query button. So go ahead and click on Query. And click on the letter A. It knows that it's text. It knows the layer it's on, and all that stuff. We can delete it or we can hide it individually. Go ahead and click on Hide in View, and it gets rid of that bubble. Select it again, click Query, select this grid line, select Hide in View. So we can reach in and we can modify this detail all we want. Let me show you something dangerous. I'm going to go down to level 3. I'm going to add another section. It's going to be right here. So I'm going to click on the Section button. Now, before I put it in, I'm going to click on Reference Other View. I'm going to click the drop down here. Now I'm going to select Drafting View Connection. Now I'm going to put that section right through here. I'm going to hit Escape a couple times. I'm going to double click on the section, and we go to the wrong detail. Be very careful doing this. Usually I don't instruct how to do this, but I know you're going to figure it out sometime. Just use caution when you're doing this. There's a whole bunch of different types of trusses that we have to choose from. I like the basic, simple how truss because of the fact that it's basic and simple. The thing is, we can put a truss in that's flat and then go back and attach it to a roof member, a floor member, a slab member, whatever we want. We can attach the top or the bottom, and we can also edit the shape of the truss. So what I want to do is bring in a how truss. I'm going to go to Roof Floor Plan. On my Structure tab, I'm going to click my Truss button. There are no structural trusses loaded, so would you like to load one now? Yes. I want to scroll down till we find Structural Trusses. Now I want to find How Flat Truss. A Pratt does the same thing, only it's going to the other side. How kind of goes to the inside. I'm going to grab How Flat Truss. I'm going to click Open. Now what I'm going to do is start drawing them in. The first one I put in, I'm going to go from this endpoint right here. I'm going to go all the way down nearest the perpendicular here. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to put one right here. From this endpoint, over to here. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to put one in about 40 feet. You can type in 40 and hit enter. I'm going to terminate it right about here. Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to draw a truss from this point to about the midpoint of there. From here, back to here. Over here, I'm going to come in about 10 feet, pick a point here. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to go to about the midpoint there. Come in another 10 feet here. Go to there. This is fine. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to copy these trusses down. I'm going to select this truss. I'm going to click copy, multiple. I'm going to come 30 feet, 30 feet. And I'll put one at 25. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to go to my 3D view. What I want to do is make sure they're all flat. So I'm going to pick a window around the entire model. I'm going to click on filter. I'm going to click check none. Now I'm just going to select structural trusses. I'm going to click OK. See how our start level and end level offsets are off a little bit? And that was probably the warning we got down here. We're just going to type in 0, and level offset type in 0, and click apply. And it will take a second. We're all set. So that's how you put flat how trusses in. The second thing is to attach them to the roof. Now that our truss is in, I'd like to attach them to the roof. I'm going to add a couple more just for good measure though. So let's go down to our roof level floor plan. I'm going to go to structure. I'm going to go to truss. I'm going to pick this midpoint here. I'm going to come straight out and pick the midpoint here. That's going to be a funky truss. I'm going to do the same down here. Midpoint. We go all the way to the midpoint here. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to go to structure truss. I'm going to put one up the middle. To the middle. And I'm going to do the same right here. I'm going to go from the middle to the middle. Now I'm going to go to a 3D view. Now what I want to do is pick a window around the entire model. I want to go to filter. I want to click check none, and I want to select structural trusses. And we're going to click apply. We're going to click OK. Make sure our start and end level offsets are still both at 0. Click apply there. Now for the real test, let's see if it's going to work. Under modify trusses, click on this button right here, which is called attach top bottom. Go ahead and select this button right here. I'm going to select my roof. Now we're just going to wait and see if it works. Now magically our trusses pop to the form of our roof. We hit escape a couple times. I'm going to kind of pan around and see what they did. So okay, so these took the shape that we want. And these started the framing. However, there's some issues with the framing. That's okay. We're going to fix that. But as it stands, it would be hard to model different trusses for each separate situation that we have here. As you notice, I kind of waited with anticipation to see if it would work. Sometimes it doesn't always attach because of the end offsets. You're just going to have to configure your trusses to work with your roof and have enough clearance for it to actually work. With our trusses in, they're pretty sloppy. The first thing I noticed was the actual material we're using. Not a big fan of W shapes. So what I want to do is configure these trusses to be wood members. And I want to go to Insert. And I want to come over here to Load Family. I want to scroll down to where it says Structural Framing. This time let's go to Wood. I'm just going to grab good old-fashioned dimension lumber. I'm going to click Open. I want to grab some 4x8s. Some 4x10s, and we'll grab some 4x12s while we're at it. Let's click OK. Now I'm just going to pan down to the bottom of any one of these trusses and select it. Now I want to click on Edit Type. For standard, I want to click on Rename. I'm going to call it Dimension Lumber. I'm going to click OK. Now what we're going to do is just go through and select our structural framing type. So we're going to click the drop down here. So for our top cores, I want to grab 4x10s. For the vertical webs, I'm going to click my drop down. I want to go 4x8s. My diagonal webs, we'll grab 4x8s again. I'm going to scroll down to my bottom chords, my structural framing type. I'll click my drop down. And we'll grab 4x12s. And we'll scroll down just to look at the rest of the properties, and they all look pretty good. So let's hit apply. Now if that's configured, click OK. And escape a couple times. Zoom in. Wow, that looks a lot better already. Pan around to the top. There's some weird anomalies here, but that's fine. Look at that, that's fine. The next step is to maybe configure the bottom to have a bent bottom chord. Since we're able to modify the top chords so easily, I'd like to look at how we can modify the bottom chords. Since we don't have anything to attach it to, we're going to have to physically edit the profile of one of these trusses. I'm going to go down to my roof level. I'm going to pick on this truss. What I'd like to do is click on my section button right here. And I'm going to cut a section right through here. With my section cut, I'm going to click here and pull this back. Now we're looking straight at our truss. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to double click on my section. Now I'd like to set my detail level to 5. I might as well set my visual style to realistic just so I can get a good look at it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to edit the bottom corner. So I'm going to select my truss. And what I'd like to do is click on Edit Profile. A truss end or bottom corner profile is ignored. So what it's saying is it's going to give us a temporary line here that reverts back to before we edited the bottom. But that's fine. Once we're done, it will reattach itself to the roof. I'm going to click OK. Now what we want to do is I want to offset these reference planes in. So I'm going to go to Architecture. And I'm going to click on Ref Plane. On my Draw panel, I'm going to click on my Pick Lines. And my offset, I'm going to go 12 feet. I'm going to offset this one to the right 12 feet. And I'm going to offset this one to the left 12 feet. And I'm going to hit escape a couple times. Excellent. Now I want to click on bottom chord. We're just going to draw an arc in. So on the draw panel, click the arc button. I'm going to pick this first point. I'm going to come down and pick this point. No, I'm going to come down. I'm going to type in 90 for the radius and hit enter. I'm going to hit escape a couple of times. Now I'm going to type SL for split. And I want to click on delete inner segment. I'm going to click a point right here. I'm going to click a point right here. And it deletes it. Okay, with that set, let's see how we do. Click on the Finish Edit Mode button. Let's see if it works. A lot of times you have to be careful because on the ends, it won't really miter it well. So you kind of have to work that out. One word of warning though, if I go to 3D, this only affected the one truss that I had selected. It's a good idea to edit your bottom core before you go copying your trusses all around. Okay, now the good stuff, the new Stereo tab. I'm loving this tab because we can now efficiently model connections in Revit, where before we didn't even try to spend that much time creating this stuff. So let's take a look at how we can get some connections loaded into our model. In Revit, under Projects, let's go to Structural Template. Next, let me introduce you to the new Stereo tab. The very first button is Connection. What happens if we just simply click Connection? We look down on our properties, and there are no connections loaded. So we got to bring some in. Hit escape a few times. The reason they're not loaded is because there's so many. It's a good problem to have. We can click this drop down and make sure we turn on show warnings and views because sometimes it won't make the connection, but it'll tell you why. Now under connection, click the connection settings button right here. Look at all of these connections. Now, none are loaded into the project. Some people like to load them all. I don't really like loading them all. So all we need to do is choose a couple. Click angle, column beam seat. Look at how many there are. I haven't counted them, but I'll bet there's 100. Wait, whatever you want. Click add. Now if we'll notice, we can go to the parameters. These parameters can show up in our settings. So if we add one, I'm going to call it placeholder. So what we can do is we can schedule on this. So if I click OK, now if I go to structure, draw a beam here, draw a beam here, hit escape, go to a 3D view, what'll happen is our connections won't show up if our detail level is not set to fine, which makes sense. I'm going to change it to hidden line. Now if we go back to the Steel tab, click connection, you'll see now we have some available connections. So if I grab clip angle, if I hold down my control key and click on both of these, you can either hit the space bar or enter. It's going to pop it in. But what's nice is if we select it and our approval status, we can set it to placeholder. That way everyone knows that this is just a placeholder. And look what it did. It copied the beam also. Pretty awesome stuff. After all the configuring we've been doing, hopefully the question arises, can we save the configuration? Sure, we can do that. So let's go in and make a custom connection. To get started, open up Revit. Under Projects, let's start a new model using a structural template. Go to Structure, click Beam, draw a beam here, and I'm going to draw a beam right here. Just skip a few times. Go to a 3D view. Zoom in on it. Change the scale to 3/4 of an inch equals a foot. Detail level to fine. Let's change it to realistic. On connection, Let's click on Connection Settings. Scroll down until we find Clip Angle. Let's add that. Click OK. Click Connection. Select your clip angle. Hold down the Control key. Select this beam and the met beam. Hit Enter or your spacebar. There it is. Now let's just change it. So with it selected, go to Modify Parameters. And out here, you can change whatever you want. Bump up my angle. Ooh, she's big. Bolt parameters. Slide all shim plates. Just change a couple things, whatever you want to do. I'm going to close out of here. Hit Escape. Now select it. Click Customize. Call it Typical. Clip Angle. Now click OK. Just click Finish here. Now let's go back to level 2. Right click on this beam and create similar. Let's draw another one here. Go to a 3D view. Select connection. Hit the drop down here. This time I'll use typical clip angle. Select both of these beams by holding down the Control key. Hit Enter. And there's our typical clip angle. Notice that you can't modify the parameters. So this is it. Hit Escape a couple times. That's it. That's how you save your settings. I'm going to use a profanity that used to make me really anxious back in the good old AutoCAD days. Explode. I'm sure the people working on this update made a conscious decision to avoid that word, but that's basically what we're doing. So let's do just that. Let's add a fitting and then break that sucker. In Revit, let's start a new model using the structural template. Let's model a couple beams, like we've been doing. Set your detail level to fine. Change it to hidden line. Slow to clip. Click OK. Select connection. Clip angle. By holding down the Control key, select both of these beams. Hit Enter. There it is. Now let's break it. Click the break button. That's a cool connection. Now what we see is it models these as all one part, but we'll see it essentially explodes it, but at least it keeps the intelligence of these items. So these are still bolts, and we can select them. We can still change them. But everything else has become detached and independent of one another. It was a quick, easy video, but that's how you essentially explode a fitting. When the beams travel through other beams, what are we to do? What we're going to do is this. We're going to model 2 intersecting beams and look at how we can cut holes in them. Under Projects, let's start a new structural project using the structural template. Go to the Structure tab, click the Beam button, and draw a beam here. You know what? I'm going to draw a beam right here. I'm going to hit Escape a few times. Let's go to a 3D view. Let's set the detail level to fine. Let's set our visual style to hidden line. Now this beam here, let's make it a 16 by 26. Let's select this beam. Let's all set it down 2 inches. So start offset -2 inches. and level -2 inches. And there we go. We have this situation. Let's go to the Steel tab. Let's click on Cut Through. Select this beam. Hold down the Control key and select this beam. And hit Enter. And that's kind of cool, but it's not quite what we're looking for. So with this still selected, let's go to Modify Parameters. Uncheck Create Shortening. Just going to pass that through again. Now we can do a few things. We can uncheck welding. Contour shape. I want to do a casing. Close out of here. Hit escape a couple times. Click cuidado. If you set your visual style to realistic, we'll see a little bit better. If it didn't work on the first shot, what you need to do is select this, and you can just change the direction that it's going in. Whereas this one is going to just basically slice it. It's going to be one beam, but it slices it, you probably never have that. So if I click this again, it's going to punch that hole through it. There you have it. Hit escape a few times. That's how you bore a hole through a beam with another beam.